boy, does he love.
And does he fall fast? It doesn't take much. Doesn't take much for this guy to fall in love with you.
Welcome to Burnt or Buttered.
Quick movie reviews. Well, kind of quick.
Kind of slow.
It just depends on the movie, really. This week we went and saw another Monday mystery movie. So we got to see a movie that all of you have not seen yet. Depending on when this comes out, you might have already seen it.
But as of right now, it's about 2 weeks from being released.
0 reviews on this besides critics.
Couldn't believe it. I've never been this early to anything in my life.
We went and saw... We didn't choose to see this movie, but we ended up seeing it.
It was thrust upon us.
The movie is Novocaine.
Novocaine.
And if you haven't heard this movie, you're welcome.
If you have heard of this movie, well, then you know that this movie stars Jack Quaid as a normal, average, everyday dude with just one little thing that makes him a little bit different. He can't feel pain. But, as the opening song tells us, everybody hurts.
And we see that Jack Quaid, Nathaniel, what's his name in the movie?
It's Nathan Cain.
Nathan Cain. That Nathan Cain doesn't hurt, but he loves a whole lot.
Ooh, boy, does he love.
And does he fall fast? It doesn't take much. Doesn't take much for this guy to fall in love with you.
No, just one magical night.
So Nathan Cain is a guy that can't feel pain, and he falls in love with someone that he works with. And a heist happens, and the whole movie is about Nathan rescuing this damsel in distress.
Allegedly. So, yeah, that is the synopsis of this movie. And boy, it is a ride.
So we're going to jump into Behind the Butter. Again, if you do not want any spoilers on this bad boy, go ahead and skip to our review with the final pop. But we're going to jump into Behind the Butter and really talk about what made this movie special.
Yeah. So I guess for me, a few things that I thought were interesting were the cinematography, right? They did a lot of fun camera movements that really showed you this guy should be in a lot of pain, but he's not.
Yeah, they did that pretty well. One thing that they showed was the consequences of what was happening to his mind as far as him getting knocked out and things like that, but no pain was involved in that. So he isn't feeling the consequences of what happened other than he loses consciousness or he's struggling to stay awake. But there's no pain attached to that consequence. And so you can feel it, that it's just a fuzziness kind of coming in and out. And that's one thing that was kind of hard to understand in the movie is where does the feeling happen, like inside of because he feels pressure. We know that he feels pressure and things, but as far as, because our brains are so powerful that a lot of the feelings that we feel are imagined feelings, like anxiety or fear or whatever those things are. And so that was one thing that I was wondering, like how he felt in different ways, and I didn't really get a lot there, because you would feel like there's something that he's can imagine feeling, or like consequences that he's scared of and the fear being attached to them. I guess it was a little bit explored with the fear aspect of things, like he doesn't eat anything solid, in fear of biting off his tongue. You know, he stays away from a bunch of things. He's taking first aid for a lot of stuff and things. But I don't know. It was an interesting character because there's so much numbness, but then also he cares a lot.
Yeah. I wasn't really sure what the rules were for, you know, what, like you were saying, how much he could feel. Like, he could feel pressure, he said. He could feel pleasure. We knew that.
Yeah, but also, like, for feeling, you know, he couldn't feel pain, but could he feel his hand touch something?
Right.
You know, like, could he feel, like, the texture of something or the
Because to me, that's part of feeling.
Yeah.
You know?
And so with him being completely numb to pain, yeah, does that just mean that he literally can't feel anything? And then if that's the case, how do you do anything? How do you pick up a pencil? How do you do anything in your life? Because it's just like...
You've got to have perfect depth perception.
Well, and with that too, with the idea of Novocaine, when your mouth gets numbed, I guess it can't move. And so that's why, you know, you can't drink and things like that, but you also can't feel. But when you're touching your lip or whatever, it's a whole nother different types of feeling because you're feeling your finger or you're feeling your skin on your finger is feeling the skin on your face without your face feeling your finger.
Yeah, it's interesting. Who knows? This is a topic that we may never know the answer to.
One of life's great mysteries from Novocaine.
But maybe we'll get a Novocaine 2.
Oh god. Novocaine babies from freaking
yeah, and then I know you really connected with the love story.
I thought that was the best part of this film because it was fun. You know, him being so awkward, socially awkward because he's been sheltered his entire life. Really seeing this girl and having that feeling of like, oh, like I like her, but I'm also really scared of liking her. And then taking that chance, you know, when he originally said no to lunch and you know, not being around her and stuff. And then like, why not? Like, I'm gonna go chase this. And then I thought like the bully scene was really, really good and profound. I like that a lot. It was very quick, but also I thought it was enough to where you actually believe that this guy, because of all of his social anxieties or whatever, would fall in love with this girl from one night and to do anything because his whole life is based off of fairy tales and novels and things like that. And so that's what the savior of the story is supposed to do. You know, like he meets the girl one time, kisses her, they have sex or whatever, and that means that they're bonded for life.
Yeah. He imprinted on her.
Yeah, there's no going back.
Honestly, the best thing that could have happened in that scenario the next day when he's approaching her at work to tell her like that he loves her, essentially, the best thing that could have happened was the bank to get robbed.
Yeah. Because
that's too quick, buddy.
Way too quick. He was like so in love one night, and you think it's gonna go that way, and I did like that. Like, you know, eventually the bank robbery is gonna happen, but it happened so early in the movie that you kind of weren't expecting it, honestly. Like, I expected like maybe 1 or 2 more days to happen, maybe a montage of them like kind of dating eventually, like seeing their relationship grow a little bit more. But it literally was one day, one night to the next day, and this guy is doing everything he can to save her. The fighting scenes and things was interesting, you know, around the idea of not having pain, and it felt comic book-ish in the way of almost like a Wolverine or Deadpool or something like that, where they get shot and nothing really happens, and they're just able to work through that. What was fun is that this guy is completely average, normal guy. You know, he's not trained on fighting. Like, he's getting beat up.
But man, he's good at it.
He's not good at it. Like he was able to just do things that
He freaking improvised.
yeah, because he was able to do things that normal people wouldn't be able to do because he doesn't feel like he was able to grab the hot pan and hit the guy. He stuck his hand in hot oil. He like, dug glass into his hands,
Fists,
his fists to fight the guy. Like all those things is just he was using the fact that he had no feeling to win. And the fact that they could beat him up as much as they wanted, and unless it knocked him out, he wasn't going to care.
This guy went from 0 to 1,000,000 like in 2 seconds. As soon as he tried pie for the first time, he's like, everything I know is a lie. Nothing can hurt me. I should do everything that people say will hurt me.
Well, and they set this movie up so well with a total secondary character. This guy comes in and is being foreclosed, and when Nathan, the main character, helps him out a little bit, and as he's leaving, he's talking about his wife and saying like, even if I only had one day with my wife, it made my life worth it. And that set up the whole movie so well. I mean, that line, it made everything make sense because the main character, Nathan, was just trying to live up to that idea that even if it's just one day, my life is better because this girl was in it.
She was the sunshine in my life.
But there's also so much corniness to this movie, and with it being like an action kind of comedy, it was really, really slow.
And predictable, mostly. Like, pretty much everything that ended up happening was telegraphed. Like, they told you it was going to happen, There might have been like one or two things that were surprising, but it was mostly because of the outrageousness of it, just looking at the gruesomeness of his body by the end of the movie, I was like, that's surprising, I guess.
Yeah, that was kind of a downfall of this movie. Is I do think they took it a tad bit too far with the ridiculousness of what he was able to do and like continue to do, even to the point of the brother snapping the wrist off of his arm and exposing the bone that he shoves into his head. You're telling me that the bone of his arm was strong enough that it goes through the soft part of like his chin, through his entire skull,
all the way into his brain.
Like that's how much strength this guy has, like from just.
And now you have any STD that guy had. Like,
I mean, you have way more than just STDs.
You got any venereal disease that this guy has.
Yeah. I mean, well, all of the people that he fought, like all of them, like bled all over him.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, the craziness. But then at the end, he's in the hospital and he was in a coma for a little while. He's had all these broken bones and all these things. And you're just thinking, like, if all these broken bones were in his body, some parts of his body would just stop working. Like,
oh, yeah.
You break your arm or your shoulder or like your clavicle or whatever, certain parts of that body part are not going to continue to function.
Yeah. Like when he got shot or with the bullet or with the arrow, there are tendons that are not going to function now. And he like would limp a little bit, but no, dude, those things just aren't going to work anymore. You shoved an arrow through both of your legs.
What kind of would have been nice is maybe a time frame, a little bit better of a time frame, because we know it happened in a day, but then he talked about, most hostages are killed within the first 3 hours of being taken. And so it would have been nice to kind of see the timeline of how long this all took, because maybe he broke all these bones and like was bleeding and everything like that, and it was over like a 4 hour period total. So then maybe I could get around the idea that he got
out
help,
or whatever.
Yeah, he got help quick enough, to where it was survivable in some way. But the dude has his freaking fingernails pulled off. He has a spiky ball freaking shoved into his back. Like,
yeah. Like that could have punctured a lung or something.
It could have hit his spinal cord and paralyzed him.
Yeah. Anyways, it was fairly unrealistic, but they did throw in, you know, a few realistic points like, anytime he's about to pass out, he just takes an EpiPen because it's another form of adrenaline and it keeps him awake.
Yeah. And then he had to repair one wound, which was a gunshot.
Gunshot.
I guess he did wrap his knees,
the legs,
from the arrow. But I don't know. It had its moments and it was semi-fun for a certain period of time. But at the end of the day, I just didn't really like it. You know, the beginning was okay, but as I was watching it, I was like, I kind of wish I wasn't here.
Yeah, it kind of drug a little bit too long for me. So I guess let's get into the final pop.
Well, let's do it.
For me, this was kind of maybe a little bit less than average. You know, I feel like a better version of this is Companion, where Jack Quaid can feel things, but the robot can't. You know, that's a more fun version of this for me.
So what would you rating?
Oh, yeah. Just a 2.5 right there.
2.5. For me, I am going to give this movie a 1. Just a 1.
Whoa.
I thought about going like 0.8, honestly. Like, there is like very few redeeming moments of this film that I was like, that's funny, that's good. I laughed a few times, but most of the time I was watching the movie thinking this is a waste of time. And with that, I can't give it more than like a 1, just because I will never watch it again, and I wouldn't really ever recommend it to somebody like to watch, even as this is a fun watch. Like, oh yeah, watch Novocaine, it's good.
Yeah. I think if you're like a huge Jack Quaid fan,
0 of people are. I mean, like, that's the smallest niche that you could go into, I think.
Then you should definitely go see it. Or stay home and rethink your life choices.
Yeah, stay home and read a book. You're gonna have more fun reading a book than watching Novocaine, I think. Like, it's gonna make
go
you
watch The Rookie. You know,
is Jack Quaid in The Rookie?
No, Dennis Quaid is.
I was like, wow, like, was he a kid in that movie or something?
Maybe, actually, I don't know.
I forgot that Jack Quaid was Dennis Quaid's son until I was watching this movie. And at the very last scene of this movie is Jack Quaid eating cherry pie, and
some damn good pie.
And it made me totally think of Dennis Quaid eating shrimp from Substance. It was just kind of the exact same look, the exact same smile that they gave. I was like, oh yeah, that is Dennis Quaid's son.
Mm-hmm. And Meg Ryan.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
we're on the street.
I don't believe it. Sweet. Well, let us know what you think about this one. Let us know if there's any movies that you want us to review that aren't in theaters that you saw or that you just want to hear our thoughts on them. We'll go ahead and watch them for you. And let us know what you thought about this. If you see Novocaine or any of the other movies, let us know.
Or if you're just a huge Jack Quaid fan and want to prove Stetson wrong.
If you're the one and you somehow came across the burnt or buttered episode of this movie,
let him know.
Let me know.
Let him know.
And
Quaidians.
If it's just from The Boys, it doesn't count.
Jack Quaid plays a normal, everyday, average dude who just has this one weird thing happen to him. His girlfriend gets splattered by a superhero.
And then a superhero falls in love with him for some reason.
They always do.
It's always the average guy.
Yeah. Catch you next time.
All right.